Before I begin this video, I want to explain to you something very important, and that is the difference between a million and a billion. So bear with me. How much do you think is a million seconds? A million seconds is about 11.5 days. Now tell me, how much do you think is a billion seconds? A billion seconds is 31 years. Now, a millionaire and a billionaire might sound the same, but their scales are so different that our minds cannot even comprehend that. Let me explain to you with another example. Think about money. If you spend $1,000 a day every day, it would take you about 3 years to spend $1 million. How much do you think would it take you to spend $1 billion at the same rate? You would need 2,740 years to spend $1 billion if you spend 1,000 USD every day. That scale is beyond understanding. With that in mind, let's go on to our video. Point number one, and that is how billionaires spend money. Okay, so for most people, buying a house is a very life-changing decision. I mean, you spend years saving for the down payment, you research neighborhoods, you check mortgage rate, you build your whole life around that one purchase. But how is it for billionaires? I mean, fortunately, we get a glimpse from an interview with a private staffing firm that works exclusively with ultra-wealthy clients. So their story goes as follows. A billionaire family bought a luxury apartment, millions of dollars, marble floors, skyline views, everything you could imagine. Then they found out after they bought it that pets are not allowed. So they had 2 dogs. Now, most people would panic. I mean, they would try to negotiate, maybe even sell the place after months of paperwork and emotional stress, or maybe negotiate with the housing authority. But billionaires, you know what they did? They just shrugged and bought the apartment across the street for 10 million pounds just for the dog. It's called the dog house. That is just one glimpse of how differently billionaires move through the world, because money is absolutely no object. It's not real about what you buy. It's more about how it makes you feel. Everything has to be an experience. Everything has to be exclusive, from their wardrobe, from their bedding, from their cutlery, and even down to the ice that they pour into their drinks. Like, take this glazed luxury ice. These are hand-carved, perfectly clear, slow melting cubes, and these are designed to elevate a glass of whiskey into a spectacular event. How much do you think 50 cubes of that ice cost? It's like $325 US. So yeah, everything is an experience. Everything is a statement. And you can even see it more clearly in something as simple as the act of tipping. In 2023, Australia's youngest crypto billionaire, Ed Craven, casually left a $10,000 tip at a restaurant in Melbourne. I mean, there was no announcement. There was just a quiet moment that meant everything for the waitress and barely registered for him. I mean, for the waitress, it changed her life. She said that it meant that she could finally afford to go abroad, and this became national news. It was, I mean, quietly denied later by the team of the billionaire, but none of that really mattered to her. I mean, she had been working brutally hard for years, and this single moment that is like chump change for that billionaire became a life-changing event for her. And imagine this. There's this contrast between a casual moment for one person and like a dream fulfilled for the another. Shows how really vast this gap really is. And honestly, I actually felt sad. I mean, the waitress was happy, but I felt sad to see the contrast of how casual it is for someone to drop a life-changing amount for somebody else. Point number 2. Okay, now that is even crazier. So billionaires are actually poor on paper. So tell me one thing. What do you think is the biggest expense for any normal person over their lifetime? Is it rent? Is it groceries? Is it student loans? Well, no, it is taxes. And ordinary working class people pay a lot in taxes every paycheck, every year, for decades. But here's the thing. Billionaires don't have income the way we think about it. They have assets. They have stocks, they have companies, and they have real estate. And assets aren't taxed unless they are sold. And billionaires exploit that difference perfectly. So instead of taking big salaries, they borrow against their assets. For example, if you own $5 billion worth of stock, you can walk into any private bank and take a $500 million loan at a tiny interest rate. Oftentimes it's under 2%, and spend it however you like. $500 million tax-free. You can spend it your whole lifetime and zero taxable income. It gets even better. When billionaires die, their heirs inherit their assets at the new market value. It's called a step-up in basis, which means that unrealized gains, the massive profits made over decades, simply vanish for tax purposes. And this isn't some neat trick. Like, it's written directly into US tax law, specifically under section 1014 of the Internal Revenue Code. So here's how it works. So imagine a billionaire buys 1 million worth of Amazon stock. Over the years, that stock grows to like 10 million. If they sell while they are alive, they owe capital gains tax on the $9 million profit. But if they hold it until death, their heirs inherit the stock at full 10 million value and pay zero capital gains tax. The 9 million profit just disappears from the tax system completely legally. Billions can move across generations untouched, untaxed, and fully protected. And you know how crazy in reality it actually is? During the pandemic, when the US government sent out $1,200 stimulus checks, they were sent to individuals that were earning less than $75,000 a year. Can you believe that 18 billionaires legally qualified based on their reported incomes? They actually got stimulus checks. 18 billionaires? Like, imagine having more than $1 billion in assets and getting a stimulus check from government because the government thinks that you need the money because, you know, pandemic is ruining you. That legally. How is that normal? Point number 3. Okay, so you know, one of the few times I actually wish I had more money and I was kind of like really rich is whenever I travel. So when I'm struggling to get my baggage under the weight limit, worrying about customs and immigration, double checking that every little thing is in order, the whole process is nerve-wracking. No matter how prepared I am, 1 extra kilogram and you are stuck. Getting to the airport hours early, rushing, standing in endless lines, and on top of everything, there is a new worry. I mean, airlines are now asking me to pay extra to reverse my carbon emissions, to somehow undo the environmental damage that my one little flight does. Meanwhile, imagine how travel is for billionaires. Turns out it's a completely different planet. First thing is that, you know, they have private jets, right? But do you know that they don't just fly private? Like, they use something called FBOs, fixed base operators. These are like private terminals entirely separate from public airports. These places, they don't even exist for normal people. There are like more than 3,000 FBOs in the United States alone. Like, at an FBO, immigration and customs officers literally come to your jet to stamp your passport. I mean, you land, your passport gets stamped right there on the tarmac, you step in the car, your Rolls Royce, and you're gone. No baggage belt, no metal detector, no security line, no public terminal, but there's more, actually. So billionaires globally are such a small club that nationalities don't really matter. And there's like actually a kind of an unofficial billionaire calendar. So every year they cycle through the same key events and locations. So for example, World Economic Forum in Davos in January. In May, they go to Monaco Grand Prix. September, the Venice Film Festival. In December, and they go to Art Basel, Miami Beach. Did you notice something? Like, almost all of these places are near ports. Why? Why? Because of their yachts. Exactly. And that is the ultimate form of billionaire travel. They take their private jets to new destination and their yachts are already waiting for them there. How? Because yachts have their own freaking transport networks. I mean, there are specialist companies that ship these floating mansions across oceans. So the owners just show up whenever it is convenient. But it doesn't really stop at getting yachts and private jets. I mean, the way they travel is bulletproof, not just literally, but figuratively as well. So their jets are often equipped with defense technology. For example, Roman Abramovich, billionaire and, you know, former owner of Chelsea Football Club, he has a private Boeing 767 equipped with an anti-missile system, the same kind of technology that is used on Air Force One, the US president's plane. And when you look at their yachts, I mean, super yachts over 100 meters long that cost an upward of $200 million, they're not casually driven around. I mean, the 100 costing upwards of $300 million, these yachts are equipped with anti-drone systems like MARSS NIDAR US to detect and neutralize unauthorized drones. They have underwater sonar arrays to detect divers before they even get close. They have panic rooms hidden inside, known as like citadel rooms with independent satellite communication and navigational control. These are like fortresses. These are like castles that they travel with. And you know, I talked about carbon emissions. Do you know what is the average American's carbon footprint over their lifetime? It's about 16 tons. A single private jet flight can emit approximately 3.6 tons of CO2, meaning that one flight can burn through nearly a quarter of average Americans' lifetime emissions. And even if you didn't exist, even if you stop carbon emission, even if you stopped breathing, a billionaire's 5 flight would emit more carbon than you could ever save in your lifetime. Okay, next point. So for most people, going through healthcare isn't the most pleasant experience. I mean, if you live in the United States, it's insurance paperwork, it's crippling out-of-pocket cost, and sometimes even the fear of bankruptcy for something as simple as emergency surgery. And even if you live somewhere with universal healthcare, maybe Europe, where you don't have to fear the bill, you still deal with something else. You have long waiting lists, maybe you have delayed treatments, sometimes you have bureaucratic bottlenecks that can stretch months and sometimes even years. Wherever you are, for normal people, healthcare is definitely not not a pleasant experience. Meanwhile, billionaires already live in a completely different reality. I mean, they have specialist doctors on call, they have private clinics at their disposal, sometimes even entire hospitals that are reserved for their needs. So they have no problem getting treatment if something is wrong. But you know, it gets even further than that, because what happens when you can buy everything that can be bought? Like literally anything that has a price tag in the world, you can buy it, is yours. What happens then? Well, you hit the limits of what is possible, what can be bought. And that is where we see the most absurd thing happening. For example, the billionaire quest to be immortal, to live forever. Because how does it feel to know that despite all your wealth and power, every day still brings you closer to your death? It's not the most entertaining thought, is it, right? For the most powerful people on the planet. So they are working, and they are working hard at it. Peter Thiel, for example, who is a co-founder of PayPal and a major Silicon Valley investor, he has expressed, well, a lot of interest in experimental therapies. For example, young blood transfusions, which is sometimes called vampire therapy, where blood from younger donors is given to older individuals in the hope of rejuvenating the body. So there was one startup involved in these experiments, which was called Ambrosia, and they charged $8,000 for 1 liter of transfusion of plasma from donors aged 16 to 25. I mean, despite the high cost, the procedure, well, it kind of lacked the robust scientific backend and faced a lot of criticism. And in 2019, it was after a warning from the FDA, it shut down operations. But then we also have Jeff Bezos, I mean, the founder of Amazon. He has invested hundreds of millions into longevity startups. One of them is Altos Labs, a biotech company focused on cellular reprogramming, which are essentially trying to reset human cells back to a younger state. Something called the Yamanaka factors. It's actually a Nobel Prize-winning discovery that made it possible to reverse aging in cells, and the billionaires have commercialized it for themselves. Yep, normal people are trying to afford gym memberships and vitamin supplements. Billionaires are pouring billions into becoming immortal. Well, even though if it's a fantasy for now. Okay, final point. For most people, if you are born in a developing country and you want to move somewhere better, somewhere where you can actually build a life, you have a pretty long road ahead of you, right? You have to spend years living there legally, usually anywhere from like 5 to 8 if you're talking about Europe. You need to be an upstanding citizen, hold a stable job, pass language and citizenship test, prove you're integrated, show you belong, and even then, it's not guaranteed. Like if everything goes right, maybe after years, you might finally be allowed to become a citizen. But if you're rich, I mean, not even a billionaire, just rich, the world looks very different. You start building what is called a passport portfolio. You're shopping around the world for nationalities that offer you better benefits, more protections, and easier mobility. There is an entire industry built around it actually now. For example, countries like Malta and Portugal and St. Kitts and Nevis, which is a tiny island, openly offer citizenship or residency in exchange for investment. For example, in Malta, you can donate $600,000 and maybe invest another $700,000 into real estate, and after 12 months, you can apply for full citizenship. In Portugal, for example, you can invest $500,000 into real estate or other funds, and you can qualify for residency and apply for citizenship after 5 years without even needing to live there full time. In St. Kitts and Nevis, for example, you can donate $250,000 to the National Development Fund or buy a estate worth at least $400,000, and you can get one of the strongest passports in the Caribbean in just a few months. No decade of integration, no language exams, no endless paperwork, just the right investment and you are in. And we know that by 2024, demand had exploded, with these countries and Caribbean nations leading the global charts for investment citizenships. But you know, I am kind of talking about rich people and millionaires. Billionaires are in a completely other league. Millionaires buy citizenships. For billionaires, citizenships buy them. What do I mean by that? Like, take Peter Thiel, for example. In 2011, he applied for New Zealand citizenship and it was approved, even though he actually lived for only 12 days in New Zealand. Normally, if you want to become a New Zealand citizen, you live there legally for at least 5 years. You need to spend at least 240 days inside the country each year. You have to pass language tests, prove good character, show you intend to stay permanently. Peter Thiel, he had spent a total of 12 days in New Zealand, spread over several years, and he got full citizenship. I mean, no years of residency, no waiting, no test, no proving anything. New Zealand government simply called him a person of exceptional talent who would bring benefit to the country, and that was enough. Because when you have enough money, you don't just get through the system gets you. The system is for you. I mean, countries roll out red carpets for billionaires. So yeah, crazy things considered normal by billionaires. What a world have we come to. And on that note, I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.